Microsoft built VS Code and made it open source. A company called Windsurf forked it and added some AI features to it. In the meantime, Microsoft bought 49% of OpenAI, who then decided to pay $3 billion for Windsurf, meaning that Microsoft basically paid $3 billion for a fork of their own piece of software. It is tempting to ask yourself, what the hell is going on? Before I continue, I'm working on a new video about the YouTube algorithm, and I wanted to understand how video likes influences the algorithm. So even if you are not going to like this video, please do it anyway so that it can help with my research for the video that I'm working on. Okay, now back to the video. Okay, so to understand what is going on, let's break it down. First of all, why is VS Code open source? And second, why pay for a fork of your own product? In my channel's short history, it seems like some ideas keep appearing again and again. One of them is the idea of commoditizing your complement. In short, the idea is that by making something free, you increase the demand for something else. In this case, we can see how Microsoft making VS Code free and open source allowed them to bet on Azure, the real moneymaker. Let's imagine an alternative universe where Google had made the most popular code editor. In that universe, Microsoft would need to make deals with Google to make sure that it is easy to publish your code to Azure, or GitHub for that matter. And Google would have incentives to prefer their own services, just like they do on Android. This is the situation that Microsoft really wants to avoid. In fact, they want to avoid it so much that they decided to not only make the most popular code editor, but also acquire GitHub, made TypeScript, and they made Azure. By owning the entire stack, Microsoft has the opportunity to nudge developers in subtle ways. For example, they are making sure that the integration to Azure is really simple. In just a few clicks you can deploy your code, updates to Azure, or maybe even monitor how it performs. All from VS Code. By making it as simple as possible to choose Azure, Microsoft uses VS Code to funnel developers to Azure. While this answers why they made VS Code free, it does not answer why it is also open source. If you know anything about Microsoft, you will know that this is the company that used to fight for the right to monetize software and even called Linux cancer. But everything changed when Satya Nadella came around. Satya Nadella took over Microsoft from this guy, and saw that the Windows First orientation would no longer work for the company. Instead, he decided to make Microsoft a cloud-first company. And when doing cloud computing, you may find that only running Windows servers are a better idea, since most companies want to run programs on Linux. So Microsoft under Satya Nadella started making good decisions again. Not only did they run Linux in Azure, they also wanted to show developers that they cared about them in other ways. One huge thing they did was to make private repositories in GitHub free. They were really going all in on developer trust, since they know that developers make many decisions in companies, for example which cloud provider to use. Making VS Code open source was just one more thing they did to win back developer trust. Another benefit of making VS Code open source is that other people can help make VS Code better. And some of those people that are into open source developing might also want a job working for Microsoft at some point. While talking about VS Code being open source, it is important to mention that technically some extensions and proprietary features are not included in the open source license. It doesn't really take away from the rest of the argument, but should be mentioned regardless. In the last few years, we have seen that especially Cursor has become very popular amongst developers. Instead of making an IDE from scratch, they were able to use VS Code as a starting point and just focus on adding the features that would actually make them special. Because Microsoft allowed this to happen, they had a chance to look from the distance at what was working at Cursor and then add similar features to Copilot. This meant that they can allow other companies to spend money on innovation and research, while Microsoft can essentially just copy what works for them. And at the same time, if a product like Cursor convinces many new developers to switch away from another product such as Vim, Cursor is actually helping Microsoft because Cursor comes with the same built-in features such as great support for GitHub and Azure that was the purpose of Microsoft making VS Code to begin with. So it's basically free marketing. Many people were probably surprised to hear that OpenAI acquired Windsurf and not Cursor, since Cursor is much more popular. But it turns out that they tried, but Cursor was not ready to sell. But regardless of whether OpenAI bought Cursor or Windsurf, why does this move even make any sense? I've seen many people on the internet saying, why doesn't OpenAI just use all of the brilliant employees and maybe even some secret AI version to make a competitor themselves? And I honestly think it's a valid question, but even more so, OpenAI is 49% owned by Microsoft, and Microsoft already has GitHub Copilot, which recently have done nothing else than copying Cursor. So they basically already have a Cursor competitor. One potential answer is of course that it is not enough for OpenAI that Microsoft has Copilot. They want to have their own product. As I explained in my latest video on Perplexity, OpenAI is really doubling down on a product-first strategy, where they want to not only make the models, but also the best AI products. Since AI code editors has become one of the most popular ways to use LLMs, it makes sense to put an AI code editor into OpenAI's portfolio. But still, why wouldn't they just build one themselves? Or perhaps make a deal with Microsoft that they get to fork Copilot and then develop it in their own direction or something? While some people say that Cursor are performing better than Copilot, it should surely be possible for OpenAI to get as good as Windsurf is today for less than $3 billion they spent on Windsurf. I can only speculate, but my best guess is that there are some things in life that money cannot buy, such as happiness, a fit body, and a fast time to market. By acquiring Windsurf, OpenAI gets the product out there without first having to spend the time developing the product attracting users. And more than just an active user base, OpenAI gets an actually well-working product with product market fit, and employees that have specific knowledge related to the product development of this specific product. Furthermore, I also suspect that OpenAI is going to save data regarding the code that other model providers are generating to help train their own models in the future. While I am just speculating, it could become an important asset for OpenAI, since at this point we know how important it is to validate the data that your model generates to make future versions even better. So while $3 billion might initially sound like a lot, when viewed through the lens of strategic advantage, speed, and the intense competition within the AI landscape, it becomes clear that this acquisition is less about the cost and more about the value of securing a competitive advantage quickly. If you liked the video, it means a lot to me if you want to subscribe. I just crossed 1,000 subscribers and I want to say thank you to each one of you, it means a lot. And please leave a comment and please like, that is the only way to help me out. Thank you.